There are 32 teams in the NFL. 14 of them make the playoffs. 4 of them make the conference championship. 2 of them only make the Super Bowl, and only one can call themselves champs. So that's what we're going to look at today as I attempt to perfectly predict this upcoming NFL season. So anyway, let's get into it. It's going to be a long video, so grab your popcorn and a drink, and let's make some fan bases mad, starting with the AFC East. Coming in last place, which should be a surprise to literally nobody, is New England Patriots, as I have them with a record of 2-15. Now, this doesn't mean that I think they didn't improve, because I think they did, but their schedule was brutal, facing 11 teams that finished last year with a winning record. And I believe there's going to be a major adjustment period for this team without Bill Belichick and a rookie quarterback, who I personally like, but I think will struggle behind the weak offensive line and having bottom 5 weapons to work with. So yeah, I think New England Patriots are headed in the right direction this year, but it is not their year this year. Now we get to the more heated part of the division, the top three. But I believe the Jets will come in third with a record of 9-8 and missing the playoffs. And honestly, I don't have a good reason other than vibes. Something just telling me the Jets will flop this year. I'm gonna stick with my gut. On paper, this Jets team is awesome. I mean, they have a top 5 defense, a top 10 wide receiver, do an improved offensive line, and a QB play. So in theory, the Jets should improve by more than 2 games. But I don't know. Something about the Jets makes me hesitant to predict them highly. So yeah, Jets 11-8, lock it in. I'll probably regret this later. Alright, let's talk about the Bills, who I have going 11-6 and finishing second in the division. And the reason behind that is one man, Joshua Patrick Allen. He really is a QB that can do it all, despite losing his number one weapon in many defensive starters, and plus, in my opinion, having a bottom 10 coaching staff will this team to win because he's just that good. I just don't think he does quite enough to win the division, though. Called a biased pick, but if not now, when will the star-studded Dolphins team take an AFC's crown? So I have them going 12-5 and winning this division. Look, I get the concerns about Tua not stepping up in big games. I also already know that Mike McDaniels will be able to evolve his offense even more than he already has. Plus, last year the entire defense was hurt. We had 35-year-old Melvin Ingram starting in a playoff game. And don't even get me started on Big Fangio. I can make a whole video about how awful his defense was. But this defense that we have was not built to play his vanilla style. But I like Anthony Weaver from Baltimore because I think he's going to bring a more aggressive defense to this defense that desperately needs some aggression. So yeah, Dolphins 12-5, lock it in. Moving on from the AFC East, let's talk about the NFC East. I didn't realize how delusional Giants fans were until recently. Do you all actually think you're going to win 8, 9, 10 games? Because some of the predictions I have seen, like, come on, this team is trash. That's why I have them going 2-15. I wish I could say something positive, but outside of Neighbors and a good edge rushing duo, this team is a dumpster fire. Daniel Jones will be lucky if he does not get benched before the season ends, and losing Saquon will be noticed instantly. The O-line could allow my high school JV team to get pressure, and it's still unbelievable this team won a playoff game just 2 years ago, which seems like ancient times at this point. Washington, sit down, please. Let me tell you a harsh truth. You all picked the wrong quarterback, and Jaden Daniels behind that offensive line is going to be a nightmare. It's going to look like me trying to escape the pocket in College Football 25. It's going to lead to having a 3-15 record. Sorry, Washington fans. The truth hurts. Cry, Eagles, cry, because I believe you all are still not good enough to take this division. It's cool you all got Saquon, but the run game wasn't the problem last year. The problem was the coaching, and you proceeded to keep your cocky, arrogant head coach that doesn't actually do anything and keep him around, and then you replace your awful OC and DC with slightly less awful OC and DCs. Now, with that out of the way, I'm talking about this team as if I think they're going to miss the playoffs. But no, high-end talent can always bail out bad coaching. And I believe this team has a ton of high-end talent, and I think they're going to go 11-6 and still make the playoffs. CeeDee Lamb is Offensive Player of the Year, and him and Dak will carry this Cowboys offense to 12 wins, and the defense will create turnovers. Although this team got worse, it didn't get worse enough for me to think they'll have a noticeable regression. And they are going to be the same Cowboys team they were the last 3 years. Moving on to the AFC West now. Congrats, Sean Payton. You drafted QB6 of the draft class so he could be a robot in your system. That was painfully average of a better QB under center. Cool. Am I supposed to be moved by this? No. I think y'all are going to win 3 games next year. You'll be the most boring, uninspiring team in the league, and I'm already bored of talking about the Broncos, so let's just move on. I love and hated the Chargers offseason. I love getting Jim Harbaugh and trying to build a run game behind Justin Herbert. I hated giving him 0 receivers to throw to, though. But I believe despite the bad defense and bad wide receivers, Herbert and Harbaugh will be able to carry this team to 8 wins. I don't have much to say, sorry. Moving on. I would like to preface this prediction with the fact that I believe Max Crosby will win Defensive Player of the Year. I think the Raiders will have a top 10 defense with him and Wilkins on the line, okay? So I have the Raiders going 9-8, which is higher than I see them being predicted by most. I like the defense, and I like Antonio Pierce as a head coach. The real concern is the offense, especially the QB play. Regardless if you start Minshew or O'Connell, you're getting mid at best QB play. And I believe this is holding them back from being serious contenders. And if they can land a QB in next year's draft, they could be scary. So watch out. Wow, what a surprise. A team that won the division 8 times in a row and has the best player in the world is going to win it and get the 1 seed at 13-4. Wow, so surprising. And if I have explained why the Chiefs are winning this division, you're delusional. As long as Mahomes is healthy, this is KZ's division. Also, just a side note, I had to resist making a bunch of Taylor Swift references for this part, so you're welcome. Let's move on to the NFC West. I don't really want to talk about the Cardinals because I'm super excited for Kyler to Marv. But I'm going to be honest, one rookie isn't saving this awful defense. But I believe the offense will be good enough to win them 5 games, but the defense might be the worst in the league, and it's really holding back this Cardinals team from being playoff contenders. I don't really want to talk bad about Cardinals. They're exciting. They're young. There's just a lot of work to do. Let's just go with that. Do you remember when the Seahawks were in the playoffs and had hype surrounding them? I do. Now I see a whole lot of mid on this team. Geno Smith isn't the long-term answer at QB, and they should start looking into younger, better options. Defense was bottom 10 last year, and I have no reason to believe they'll improve. So yeah, 6-11 seems fair, and it's time to start the rebuild we thought they were going to do 2 years ago. Here's a fun take for you. The Rams will have the best offense in the league next year. Why do I believe this? Because they'll need to score a lot of points to win games next year, especially since they lost AD this offseason. But I believe this offense with Stafford, Puka, Kupp, and Kyron will be lethal and will carry what I believe to be a below-average defense to a 12-5 record, which will be good enough to win. Which won't be good enough to win this division, but will be good enough to make a playoff spot. I'm not redoing that. I fully believe this team says Avengers Assemble before every game because the 49ers team is full of talent top and bottom. One of the deepest wide receiver cores, a top 2 tight end, a top 10 defense, the best running back in the league, and it's not even close. The only knock on this team is they've had mid QB play, but that's been good enough to win them a ton of football games. I don't think that changes this year. I have them going 14-3, securing number 1 seed back-to-back years, which shouldn't be much of a surprise to anyone. Now moving on to the best division in football, the AFC North. I'm going to regret this, aren't I? Coming in last place in the hardest division in football is the Pittsburgh Steelers at 7-10, and I know what you're about to say. They've never had a losing record under Mike Tomlin, and they upgraded that QB. But I believe they got lucky to finish 10-7 last year and won too many one-score games to get away with it again. They will disappoint because their offense still can't produce, and the defense will carry them every game. I'm 100% going to regret this when they're 9-8 in January and barely miss the playoffs. I know for a fact I am. But I have slept on the Steelers every year, and I'm going to keep doing it. Coming in third place at 11-6 is I have the Cleveland Browns, and there is one reason, and that is Mr. Watson. Disregarding off-the-field issues, we have not seen this man play consistent good football since 2020, where his team only won 4 games. So, when are we going to accept the fact he's never going to return to his Texans fact, and the fact that he will ruin the Browns season because they have an amazing team surrounding him? And he's weighing them down, which sucks because I believe with just an average QB, Baker Mayfield, they could easily be Super Bowl contenders, but they don't have that. So they're just going to have to settle for being third in this division. In second place, I have the Cincinnati Bengals at 12-5. This is basically because of how explosive their offense is, because they will most likely average 25-plus points per game, but the defense worries me. They were already pretty bad last year and lost their best player, DJ Reader. But they do get the privilege of playing the last place schedule, so that's basically what's giving them a slight edge over the Browns. And winning this division for the second year in a row is the Baltimore Ravens, also finishing a record of 12-5. I mean, how do you stop this run game? Because I don't see how you're going to stop Lamar and Henry. It's going to break defenses, and it won't be fair. Although I think the defense will take a step back, it's still elite, and will make opposing quarterbacks have nightmares thinking about them. The only knock on this team is the receiving core, which was below average, but I believe this team will have another great regular season just like they did last year. Crazy Ravens fact, by the way, they had 10 wins against teams with winning records, and most of them were absolute blowouts. So just because it didn't end well does not mean you should sleep on this team. Moving on to the next division, we have the NFC North, and bottoming out this division is the Minnesota Vikings at 5-12, which feels very low, even though I predicted it, because they still have Justin Jefferson, who is shown to be able to single-handedly win football games. But that QB play worries me. Sam Darnold is Sam Darnold, and I didn't like JJ as a prospect, so that doesn't help me as well. Those defense is pretty mid and nothing special. So yeah, although 5-12 seems low, I have many reasons to believe this prediction can come true. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Bears have a good football team with the nail painter himself under center. Let's go down this team. They arguably have the best wide receiving core in the league, a top 10 defense, a solid running back, and a perfectly average offensive line. So yeah, I'm super high on this team. I think they'll have a record of 10-7, which for Chicago is really good. And don't be surprised in 2 years when the Bears are competing for a Super Bowl. Congrats, Packers! You found another franchise quarterback, and the entire league envies you. Woohoo! And you finally got rid of your awful DC Joe Barry, so there should be improvement. And I believe there will be by one game. But don't let that fool you to make you think I don't think they're going to improve, because they did. And I believe they'll still be a better team and just with a tougher schedule. And they'll make the playoffs. So yeah, don't get too mad, Packers fans. Please. We are officially entering a new era of the NFL where the Lions aren't a complete laughingstock and are actually contenders in this league, which is still a little crazy to believe, but it's true. With that roster, a top 5 O-line receiver and running back, and above average QB with an elite play caller, wow. And maybe the defense might not be the best, but they brought in a ton of new DBs to completely overhaul that awful secondary, which should be very much improved. And they already had a top 5 run defense, so there's no reason this team should be competing for a ring, and that's why I have them going 11-6, which sounds low, but you'll see. Let's move on to our next division, the AFC South. And bottoming that out, I have the Titans. I want Titans to be good. I want Mayo Man to be good because he's a lot of fun to watch. But I just can't see the vision. All I see is mid and a 6-11 record. But I hope they prove me wrong because if Will Levis is good, they're going to be fun to watch. Holy mid. That's how I feel about the Jags. For some reason, this team is obsessed with being mid and have an attempt to make a splash move to help T-Law reach his potential. And speaking of T-Law, hasn't the career been a bit underwhelming considering he was the prince we were promised? He had only half a season of elite play to show for it, and this division has gotten far better, so I think 7-10 is fair for such a mid team. Probably the most underrated team in football is the Colts, and even I feel like I'm underrating them at 10-7 because we are talking about a team that was one drop pass away from winning this division with Gardner Minshew, and I have much higher opinion of AR than I do of Minshew, and that's not even talking about the defense, which has an elite front seven, and my pick for Defensive Rookie of the Year, Laiatu Latu. And if I had a dark horse Super Bowl contender, I would pick this team, so I'm fully ready for them to exceed my expectations for them. CJ Stroud is my MVP for the season, locking in. I mean, he was in MVP talks as a rookie, missing a couple of games and missing Tank Dell. So now with hopefully a healthy Stroud and Dell, plus the addition of Diggs, this will elevate this team to new heights. And I have them going 11-6 and winning the AFC South, which may seem low, but they have a tough schedule. But I believe this is still one of the best teams in the league. When I was writing the script, I was stupid and saved the worst division for last. I'm tired and just want to go to bed, but we powered through. So finishing off last in the worst division in football is the Carolina Panthers at 5-12. And honestly, Panthers fans, you can't be too mad at that. That's major improvement from 2-15. Still one of the worst teams in the league, but not quite as bad. I believe Bryce will take a step up. The O-line can improve, as well as the receiver core. But with all those positives, I have Carolina. With all those positives I have about Carolina, that's why I think they can add 3 wins to their total, which is pretty good. The Saints are trash and desperately need to rebuild. The Derek Carr experiment failed miserably, and I believe that by the end of the year, we will see Spencer Rattler start for the Saints and basically end Derek Carr's career as a starting QB. We will also see Dennis Allen get fired before the season ends, and the Saints will prepare for a rebuild and wipe any remains of the Drew Brees days. Oh yeah, I should have mentioned I have them going 5-12. The division was very close for first and second, but in second I have the Bucs with a record of 9-8, which seems fair considering the entire offseason was all about bringing people back like Baker and Evans, and they really didn't invest in adding new talent. Also, didn't lose much outside of Shaq Barrett and Carlton Davis, so they're finishing the exact same record as they did last year, which won't be enough this time to win it. So that leaves the Falcons left, who I have finishing with 10-7 and winning the division for the first time since 28-3. I truly believe that the Kirk Cousins addition and firing Gardner Smith will elevate this team because this team had talent. They just lack the two most important: good QB play, which Kirk can offer, good coaching, which I don't know much about Raheem, but he has to be better than Arthur Smith. And this offense is talented. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan have insane potential. They just need to unlock it, and I think they will be unlocked in this new Falcons offense. Well, that sets the stage for the playoffs. In the AFC, I have the always dominant Chiefs taking the first seed, followed by the Dolphins as second seed, the Ravens and Texans each taking the last 2 divisional winner spots, and the 3 wildcard spots belonging to the Bengals, Bills, and Browns in that order. In the NFC, we'll once again have the Avengers getting the first seed, Dallas getting the second seed, Detroit getting the third seed, with a newcomer in the fourth seed, the Atlanta Falcons, who haven't played a meaningful January football game in over 6 years. And securing the wild card spots are teams familiar to the playoffs: Rams, Eagles, and Packers all finding their way in. Now let's see how I think these playoffs will shake out. Starting in the AFC, I'll predict the 2 versus 7 seed match, which is Dolphins versus Browns. But I believe my Dolphins will end their playoff win drought with a narrow victory over the Browns. But my logic behind this is they play at home, which last year they were 7-2 in. And I believe Tua will outplay Watson since he's better. but it'll probably be a low-scoring, ugly game, but Miami will come out the win and secure their first playoff win in over 24 years. Next, we have the 6-seeded Bills traveling to Baltimore to take on the 3-seeded Ravens. I have Buffalo winning this game, which may be a shock, but hear me out here. Despite the lack of playoff wins, Josh Allen has been known to rise in the playoffs and play at a whole nother level. On the other side, Lamar, who is a notorious playoff choker and puts up awful games in the playoffs. And I believe Buffalo will win this game by double digits, and once again, the Ravens have a disappointing end to their year. The final game of the AFC wildcard is the 4-seeded Texans hosting the 5-seeded Bengals, and although I think this game will have potential to be game of the year with a lot of scoring happening, I see the Texans escaping a shootout, and I believe Stroud will torch the Bengals defense, and although Burrow will play great, he won't be able to quite keep up, leading to a Texans win. Starting off the NFC, I have a rematch from last year. 2-seeded Cowboys once again host Green Bay. And last year, when we saw this game, it was an absolute embarrassment for Cowboys fans. But I think the Cowboys are going to come out with vengeance and play a complete game of football and beat the Packers pretty convincingly to move on. Moving on is the 3-seeded Lions hosting the 6-seeded Eagles. And Eagles fans are going to hate me for this. But you all are going out sorry. Again, the Lions offense is going to torch you. And the Lions defense will do just enough to send Philly home once again. Thankfully, I hope this is true. I need Philly to either miss the playoffs or be first-round exits. It'd be awesome. Finally, wrapping up the wild card round, it's Falcons versus Rams. I think the Rams will win this game pretty easily. Stafford, Kupp, and Puka are going to have an aerial assault on the Falcons defense. Kirk is going to struggle to respond. So yeah, going on to the divisional round. Opening the divisional round, we have the reigning Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs, hosting the Bills. And let's be honest, if the Bills could have beat the Chiefs the previous years with better rosters, what's going to change this year? I believe this will be the entire Bills coaching staff final game as Buffalo Bills, as the defense gets torched by Mahomes, and the offense will struggle against the elite Chiefs defense, and it'll once again fall to Mahomes in the playoffs. Following that game, we have my Dolphins hosting the Houston Texans, but I believe this is where my Dolphins season comes to an end, as our secondary gets torched by Stroud and those receivers, and the offense will still put up a good game, but just won't be enough, and Miami falls again in the playoffs under Mike McDaniels. On the NFC side, we see the 49ers host their divisional rivals, the Rams. And this game probably won't be too hard for San Fran to win, because their offense will just torch the Rams defense, and the defense will force a couple of turnovers, making this game out of reach for the Rams, and they'll run away with victory and a 4th straight NFC title game appearance. At the end, and to end off divisional round weekend is Lions at Cowboys. And although I've been higher on Dallas than most throughout this video, this is where the season ends, as the Lions play Lions brand of football and run the ball down Dallas's throats against that below-average Dallas run defense, and when dominating in time possession and not allowing Dallas to touch the ball that much and win the game. That only leaves 4 more teams left. Starting off the championship weekend is Texans going into KC, a game where the Texans will be the heavy fan favorites as they try to take down the Titans of the league and make themselves known. But this game will have a fairy tale ending, as the always dominant Chiefs beat the Texans, leaving everyone but the state of Kansas and Missouri disappointed. And that leaves one more game before the Super Bowl. It's a rematch from last year's, featuring the Lions going into Santa Clara to take on the 49ers. I have a feeling that the Lions have been waiting for this moment to redeem themselves, and I believe they will start off hot, but this time never look back, advancing to the first Super Bowl in Detroit history. Alright, and it's all come down to this. Lions versus Chiefs. In my opinion, the Chiefs game from last year was definitely the moment for this Lions team, and it means even more now that they're on the biggest stage in New Orleans, with all of America watching. And the Chiefs, well, this would be the 5th time they've been here, and they are coming off back-to-back wins, so there'll be no pushover. And although I think this game will be a close one, I believe the Lions will lose in a heartbreaking fashion to the Chiefs, making them the first ever team to three-peat and adding to Mahomes' great legacy. Sorry, I picked the villains to win, but they have been so dominant that I'm picking them to win. It kind of hurts me to do this, but it's the best choice. Thank you all so much for anyone who watched all the way through. You all are amazing, because this video took forever to make, and hopefully you'll hit the subscribe to see more NFL content from me. So yeah, that's it. Peace out.